Okay, I'm with Pa Theriot. I've hit record. Just to warn you, Pa. Uh, Pa, give everybody an update. You were on the podcast. I don't know. I don't track these things. I think like 2 months ago. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It
You've been
was
on the
longer than
podcast
that.
before. Yeah, you've been on
Yes.
before.
I've been around.
Well, there's a discrepancy between when I record these and when
Right, they get
the
posted.
yeah, because anybody that's part of the community knows I do like a big batch of episodes for recording
Yeah.
and then I like post them for like 6 months. So that's why I'm struggling because I don't know when I posted your last episode.
I think it was about a month after we recorded it
Okay.
because I
That
usually
actually
watch out
doesn't
for
help
it.
because I also don't know when I recorded it. So let's just say give an update from where your writing journey is since we last chatted.
Sure. So I think the last time we talked, I was still working on that romance series.
Yeah, South
No, no,
Texas
no.
romance.
I had shifted. It wasn't the series anymore. It was a new,
Yeah, it's just a
um,
standalone. South
the
Texas
start of a
romance
new
standalone.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was Sapphic, small town,
Yep.
um, and uh, and
I
that was
remember
very
one of the
cute and
characters
fun.
was a mechanic.
hmm A
Yeah.
mechanic and a pediatrician.
Yep.
Yes,
Did you write it?
we love them. Dr. Judy Darling. It was already written when you and I spoke.
That's
I
right.
was checking I had done it for NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, and we were working on
So
like
we were checking
editing
the structure.
flow. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Have you done anything with it?
Not really.
Okay.
I kind of batted it around like a kitten with a ball of yarn, but I haven't.
Someday somebody's going to discover your hard drive like after you're gone or too old to stop them. And
It's in my will.
they're gonna find like
Yeah.
70 books that are just like
hmm Yes, they will.
that
Yes,
you've
they
written
will.
that are all fantastic that you've
I
done
have
nothing
like
with.
in my will, I have like specific people that they can just go
Nice.
to and they can do whatever they want with. I'm like, this person would enjoy this book. This person is
That's
kind of
awesome.
into this sort of genre and they do cool stuff with it. Like they can just have this
I love that
content.
so much. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, okay, so what are we working on today?
So today, I about a month ago, I had this insight while editing a friend's novel of how I could streamline a novel I wrote in 2019.
Okay.
Um, and like, I love that novel so much, and nobody wants to read it. And the people who have tried to read it are like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever read. I don't understand a word of it.
Interesting. Okay,
I'm absolutely in love with these characters. What is happening in this
what
scene?
is happening in this
So
scene? Okay. Is
there's
it a
just
David Foster Wallace? Did you do the plot by math?
so
Is
what the purpose of the book
okay.
is was to tell a feminine story in feminine voice.
Okay.
So it doesn't have a hydraulic plot
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
rising action and then falling
Yeah,
off a
yeah.
cliff. It is circuitive, and
Okay.
it's a braided narrative.
Nice. How many
It has
main
a lot of
characters?
warmth. It processes grief. It has three main characters, really four, but the biggest voices are Sophia, a grieving widow, and her two children,
Okay.
and the three of them are processing the grief
Okay.
of the kid's dad dying.
Okay.
Um, and there's also metaphysical elements, so it takes place on multiple planes.
Okay.
Um, so it's pretty tight setting wise, but then it's happening on multiple planes in the same sort of place. So it gets a little hairy.
It sounds like an interesting concept because grief is very cyclical. So
Yep.
it makes sense to me that if you were writing a novel about grief, it would have that
Yeah. And it has
spiraling feel.
initiation into some mystical rites.
Okay.
But like the whole book is an initiation process. It seems like the beginning of the book she gets initiated and then she's going on sort of a journey. The original outline was structured for the Virgin's Promise.
Okay.
Um, but like by the end of the book, like the whole thing was an initiation and like now the real work begins.
I'm sorry.
Um,
Remind me of what the Virgin's Promise is again. I
the
think I know,
Virgin's
but I don't want to
Promise,
assume.
yeah, it's like a feminine approach to the hero's journey.
Okay.
And like my general stance on the hero's journey is that like, yeah, sure, fine, but there's so many other archetypes
Yeah,
and
seriously.
they all
Yeah.
have their own journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
the Virgin's Promise is really just a feminized hero's journey where it's not like going alone into uh, a supernatural space and returning with the elixir, slaying dragons and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's like forming community and like coming deeper into yourself and individuating in that way,
Okay.
and then returning with gifts, um, and like a braiding together. So a lot of the like merry band of followers coming together, like Shira,
Gotcha.
and things like that, like
Okay.
the ensemble sort of casts
Yeah,
are
yeah.
Virgin's Promise.
Gotcha. And they all have kind of their own narratives, their own growth arcs that are
Yes.
complemented by each other as they
Yes.
form community around one another. Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Um, okay, so you've got a really complex plot system that I imagine would make any non-lit fic reader and many lit fic
Cry.
readers, yeah, be like, what is happening? Where is my
It
dark night of the
feels very
soul?
straightforward to me. There's some
Yeah,
dark nights.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, the structure of it is definitely complex. I feel like it flows well, but it's heavy. It's a big boy. It's like
yeah.
150,000 words, 130,000 words.
That is a big
Each
boy.
chapter has 5 scenes, but again, some of those are like a paragraph that's
Yeah,
epistolary.
yeah, yeah.
But it's shifting through a bunch of things that you have to hold all together at once.
Okay.
So about a month ago, I had this realization of like, oh, I could just cut all of this other stuff out. I can put it in other books if I want to, and just highlight this central relationship between
Okay,
her
wait, I'm
and
not
the
ready to go there yet, though. I want to hear
angel.
about the
Oh,
spiral. So
okay.
we can talk about
Let's
whatever
go.
you want, but
Let's go.
I'm fascinated by what you're describing. Did you
Did you look at the
spiral?
outlines?
I did just briefly. I didn't have a lot of time with them. I wish I had more. Did you look at the spirals? And I apologize for that. I wish I had had more time to sit down with them. That's my
You're good.
um did you arrange the spirals based on topic? Is there a pattern to the spiral? Is it like character, 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 next spiral, character, 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 character? How does that work?
No. So it follows the alchemical process.
Okay.
So each chapter is like going through different phases of the alchemical process, but for different characters. So it
Interesting.
doesn't follow the same pattern every time,
Oh, I'm so
but each
fascinated. Wow.
scene, it's beautiful.
It's
Each scene
beautiful.
flows to the next.
Okay.
Um,
I really want
but
you you need to send me this book. I want to read it. Before you
okay.
streamline it, I want to read it. Yeah,
So the
that's
only
really
people who
fascinating.
have read it so far are genre writers, that
Oh yeah, no,
professional.
send it to me. Send it to a lit fic reader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in this professional writing group that would I didn't know at the time, but they were all genre writers
Yeah.
for sci-fi and fantasy, and
Yeah.
they read this book and they were the ones who were giving those very dual responses. And we had the Milford structure with
Yeah.
the sandwich thing where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
like say a nice thing, say the critique, and then say a nice
Yeah.
thing. So they'd be like, "This is the most incredible thing I've ever read. I don't understand a word of it. Definitely keep writing. Can't wait to see the next scene." What do I do with that?
Don't
What do I
understand
do
what
with
it
that?
is. Yeah,
Right.
seriously. Is it time linear or time non-linear?
It's pretty time linear.
Okay.
Things get a little hairy in the metaphysical realms, like time can kind of dilate and do weird things there. But it still follows the narrative of
Okay.
what's happening on Earth. So
Yeah, it
that
really
anchors
is.
it.
It really is reminding me of. I joked earlier that it's a David Foster Wallace, but it does remind me what you're describing very much of Infinite Jest.
Oh
Have
no.
you read that one? That's a great book. It's great.
But like
Um,
nobody wants to read it,
no,
Jeff.
that's true. That's true. Only masochists sit down and read it. What makes it work though is that every
Oh,
scene is so strong.
yeah.
It doesn't matter that they're all out of order.
Yeah, and that's what people have said about this one too.
Yeah.
Like that it's like looking at a beautiful puzzle that's just all in pieces on a table and like they don't know how it fits together,
Yeah, and
but it's
there's
gorgeous. But they never finished reading it, is the thing.
okay.
They only got through the first like maybe 10th, third
Yeah.
of the book.
Is it
Um
how high on a scale of like 0 to 10? 0 being like this book has there's no emotional moments at all, and 10 being like it's a very complex emotional experience. Where would you put
10.
it? Yeah,
10.
it would have
Maybe
to be.
a 9. Maybe a 9,
Yeah,
but
it would
probably a
have to be.
10.
That's
Because
what makes.
there's poetry all up in there. There's
Okay.
I mean, they're processing grief, so there's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
heavy things, but then there's a lot of levity and humor and a lot of really tender sweetness between the characters, and everybody
yeah.
has an arc, and
Well, I
it's
gotta tell you, a
rich.
lot of writers would describe this to me, and I'd be like nodding and be like, like no, let's like yeah, that's nice, but you and I don't think that's gonna work. But you could, I've read enough of your work, Paul. You could pull that off.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. Yeah,
you're a strong
the
enough
one
writer.
friend,
Yeah,
the one friend that I had look at it, I after my experience in that group, I was like, I just need some positive feedback. So I
yeah,
reached out to a bunch of friends, and I had one friend who was like, I'll be your book cheerleader if you'll be my garden guru. And
nice.
she wanted me to do some, because I know a lot about gardening and
Yeah,
permaculture, and she was brand new to it. She was like, give me some guidance there. I'll read whatever you got. We're in a book club together. So, like,
nice.
it fit really
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And she was going on vacation with her husband and was like, give me like 3 of your books and I'll read
Okay,
them while we're off the grid. And so I did. I loaded her up with 3 books: the cyberpunk novel, this one,
nice.
and the literary family saga with the Muslim Cinderella in her
Yeah, yeah,
80s.
yeah.
I don't know which one Trish looked at,
Okay.
but she returned from vacation and was like, that felt like work. I never want to read your writing again.
Oh,
And I was like,
that's not
oh,
encouraging at all. That's the
oh,
opposite of what you're looking
I'm
for.
gonna go I'm gonna go
Oh,
bury myself in a
yeah,
hole.
seriously. I'll go do more gardening.
Oh.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I haven't let anybody read it since then.
Okay. Well, send it to me. You know I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about how you want to streamline it. Um,
Yeah. So the initial idea was to streamline it into like a romantic comedy
okay.
between those two characters, John and Sophia, the chaotic guardian angel in training and then this grieving widow.
Yeah.
Um and I was like,
Do they
well,
do they connect? Sorry, this is just my understanding as you move forward in the book. Is it a romance in that, because I could see, because there's the metaphysical plane and the physical plane, does the guardian angel in training ever actually talk to Sophia, or is this just a one-sided
yeah,
romance? Okay.
they have ongoing interactions,
Okay. Great.
but like she doesn't know what it is at first, so it's
Yeah. Yeah.
frightening.
Okay.
And that's like that's one of the main like conflicts that kind of keeps them apart. And
Gotcha.
then they each have stuff going on in their plane that they have to deal with that
Yeah.
keeps them
Yeah.
apart too.
Okay.
Um so
So
when
you're
I was
turning it
looking
into
at
a
that,
rom-com. Yeah.
yeah, and when I was looking at that and was like, I have so many stories that I want to tell in this world, making that a series, if I make it a romance series, do I want to have it be like reverse harem? Because I don't really want to have any other protagonist but Sophia.
Mhm.
Um, and then so I was toying with that idea for a while, and like nothing felt quite right. I was turning through a bunch of different things. And then a friend of mine was like, you've been wanting to write cozy fantasy. You could easily do a fantasy series.
Mm.
Um, I've never structured an action novel. So I was like, oh, like, let me figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And so I researched that,
Okay.
and I got my feet kind of under me for that. So what I sent you was, if I did the first book as a romance,
Yeah.
planning to do more romance novels. So it's like set back in time. The original novel, she's 33. But if I set this far back enough in time to tell all the stories I would want to tell in that world, she would be
Yeah.
20.
Okay.
Um, so I have that, the rom com outline. And then I have just log lines for each of 11 books that would be in the fantasy series
Yeah. Yeah.
going through.
Okay.
Um, but I realized too, when I looked at the original outline, I didn't even touch most of the plot lines that I was the most excited about from the
Mm.
original novel in all those action
Yeah.
books. And like they could be embedded in there, like they don't have to be on the cover, right? But
Yeah. 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 I mean, if you're doing the rom-com, they really can't, because that's a straightforward. there's a flow to that, and you can't
Hmm.
interrupt it too much.
Hmm.
Does that make
And I
sense?
wouldn't want to.
The
Like I
fantasy ones,
like
you definitely
her and
could.
John.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah,
like carrying forward from there would get complicated because
yeah.
especially with her being a mother, I don't think people are gonna jive with reverse harem, no matter how metaphysical her partners
That's so
are.
funny.
That could
Yeah,
get hairy.
I don't know. People like what they like. Yeah,
They do,
that's.
but if you look at reverse harem, and reverse harem is collapsing right now, but
Oh,
if
is
you
it
look
really?
at
I didn't
reverse
know that.
harems, there ain't no parents up in there.
I know a lot of them have like pack mentality stuff. It's like werewolf reverse
Hmm.
harem, vampire
But it's
reverse harem.
almost all like in their 20s,
Hmm.
late teens. Like there
Yeah,
aren't a lot of 30 somethings. And
interesting.
the fantasy series that have strong romantic themes have a lot of older women.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so that feels like a good fit for it
Okay,
potentially.
great.
I haven't done that before, so I was looking at structuring out that series.
Yeah,
um, I could I could easily make sense of like the 11 books.
yeah.
um, and so I have those log lines in there. And then what I did was I wrote out the original outline for the book, and then I just pared it down. So just
Okay,
one for one, I just took stuff out that didn't have to do with Sophia and John or things that like actively structurally supported that.
okay,
So I have a pared down outline of the first book just as it is, where it
okay.
could just be a standalone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. How can I most help tonight? What?
I would love, love, love your feedback, just looking over what I've put together
Okay.
and like seeing what makes sense.
Yeah. Which one do you
Like
want to
this
look
has
at
legs, this
first?
doesn't have legs. Um,
Which one are you least interested in?
that is a desperately hard question.
Okay.
If you just want to skim over the original,
Okay.
to where you have like a scope,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and then we could look
Let's
at
look at it
the
together.
rom-com and fantasy and then the
Yeah,
pared
yeah.
down one, because that's the order that I went in.
Okay. Again, I wouldn't. I'm just gonna say this because other people will listen to this. I wouldn't recommend this for most authors, but Pa, you're a strong enough writer. You can pull this off. Where you're
Thank
like
you.
taking a book that's in one cycle. Although I'm really interested in the original Spiral. Although you're taking a book that's in one cycle and then being like, all right, I'm gonna break it up and make it into this thing. Most writers would be like, hey, just write over. But you're a good enough writer. Your scenes are strong enough. Your character voices are good enough that you could 100% pull this off. And I know you've done it
These would all
before.
be page one rewrites anyway.
Oh, would they?
Like
Okay. You're not gonna steal scenes? I would assume you'd
I
steal
would probably,
scenes.
if I kept it, if I just did the pared down version of this, I
Yeah.
absolutely would. But if
Okay.
I'm doing a different, she's a different age and it's a
Yeah,
different
yeah.
time, and like it would be a page one rewrite, especially
Gotcha.
if I'm changing the tone, to
Yeah.
be action or to be rom-com. I would definitely have to do a page one rewrite, which I'm not
Gotcha.
scared of. I've done that before.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I'm just gonna skim this real fast
Yeah.
while we
So this is
talk.
just like, this is just the shape.
Yeah.
Um, so there you'll see as you skim through, like there are a bunch of important characters and
Yeah.
there's some overlap. So there's like Forest Spirit Brian and then Human Brian at the end. There's Gabe, there's Merlin, there's
Yeah.
Shar.
Okay.
She's got stuff going on with her family of origin. She's got an old friend that she has a failed romance with. She's got
Yeah.
stuff with her father and her dying sister. Her teenage daughter dies. Her youngest daughter has a health thing go on. She goes into a health crisis with the pregnancy.
Yeah.
She like falls in love with somebody at a meditation retreat and has a short-lived romance with them that's a little more impactful but ultimately ends. Like
Yeah.
there's so much packed in there, and there doesn't need to be. Like it can really be streamlined from here. And then there's a whole plot arc too with an internal mentor who's like also reflected in her lived reality. But that could totally be its own book. That doesn't have to be packed into this one. I liked the structure of it following her initiation arc, but
Yeah, I
it could
like
totally
it.
be its own thing.
No, I like it. It's a very mature version of a coming of age,
Yep,
which is
that's
nice.
exactly it. That's
Yeah,
exactly it.
which
I
is
wanted to
nice.
have a coming of age as
Without all the high school
an
nonsense.
adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of a second life
Yep.
thing. I really like what I'm seeing so far. I do understand it is very outside of the hero's journey. Have you, so
And like I've got just massive spreadsheets on this too
how,
that have like
and
how I planned it.
you've already written this.
Mhm.
How long is each of these points? Like word count?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think any of them get over 1,500 words. Some of them
Okay.
are just a paragraph, so it's not super bulky. And they're all rich and enjoyable. So there's no point where you're like,
Yeah.
well, what's
If
happening over there?
if I
Like
were
there's
gonna
no
if I were gonna run this pod, I really like what I'm reading. I like how you're it's got a very so what I like about where I'm at so far, and I'm only on 15.
about halfway.
Um, yeah, I'm about halfway. I see what you're saying about the intertwined characters. I see what you're saying about their multiple growth arcs and how they're all kind of weaving in and out of each other, that braided narrative you're looking for. That's totally here. Right. And I can see in your log lines how they're growing in each scene and how, but it's not what I think is going to confuse a lot of non-lit fic readers if it's in the structure of a book is that it's not a direct line
Right.
growth, right? It's not like, Sophia is looking to heal and is slowly healing through the book. There's a lot of dips and turns in here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
here
it goes
she's
through the grief cycle too.
yeah, oh, does it? That's great.
Yep.
Um,
Because that's not a linear
yeah.
process. So
No,
the
it's
the
not.
whole thing is embedded with that
That's
cyclical,
nice.
circuitive feminine. I've studied a lot of Helene Sizu, and um, it's it's got so much in it. There's all this like mythology, feminized by if you've read Cassandra Speaks, and then The
I have
Dance of the Dissident Daughter from Sue Monk Kidd. There are
I'll
these
have to check out
traditions.
those.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
mystical traditions that are going back and reclaiming the matriarchal and feminine arcs of these
That's
mythologies that have been
interesting.
actively destroyed and suppressed over time. So I wanted to
Yeah. And
speak from that voice.
right now this is just sitting in a drawer.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Reading through it and listening to you talk about it, here's
yeah.
if you want to keep it as is, here's what I would recommend.
Okay.
Do you have an email service,
Yes.
like an email list?
Yeah.
Like, I would set this up as an autoresponder so that
Just
when,
just be sending them my manuscript.
yeah, I mean, I would set it up as a separate list that they have to sign up for.
Oh.
So I would say do it as a Vela. It's a serial. What you've written is a serial. And
Yeah,
with a
it
serial,
really is.
yeah, with a serial fiction, you have the permission to not have a clear arc because people just expect them to go forever.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
you've
I
got
love that.
so much here. There's a couple ways to do a serial. You can go to the problem is like you can put it on like Vela or you can put it on like Fictionate. The problem is those are so erotica heavy. They're
Hmm.
either heavy sci-fi or they're heavy erotica.
Yeah.
And so I think you'll just drown there. I don't know that it'll work, but like
There's spicy stuff in here. Like it's not spice heavy, but there is spice.
yeah, but like the top things on Vela, the things that get attention on Vela are like,
Yeah. It's not going to grab a
yeah,
lot of eyeballs.
quadruple reverse harem with hot werewolf and vampire competing for 20 something's attention, and every
Yeah.
third episode is a sex scene, right? Like
Yeah.
or it's this like very complex sci-fi that's just kind of
Mm.
on running, not even complex sci-fi, but just very clear sci-fi. But that being said, so you could try it on Vela. What would be nice is you can, if you get any traction on Villa at all, you'll get paid, which is nice.
Oh.
At least right now, like JP and I run Villa. We don't make a ton. We run our series Nerds on Villa.
Hmm.
It's and again, it doesn't fit well with what's on Villa. It's a comedy, and so it
Nice.
doesn't, there's not a lot of comedy on Villa.
Right.
There is, but it's like raunchy comedy, and we're not a raunchy
Sure.
comedy. So
Sure. Sure.
anyway, but we've built a fan base. Like we have people that follow. We're on episode 89, and we have people that follow us every week.
Nice. That's awesome.
We've been going for 89 weeks, which is a little crazy. But you can so but I would release, if you want to keep it like this, I'd release it as a serial. And what I was thinking though was like oh man, why am I Stephanie why am I blanking on her name? She does
Meyer?
Elevator Girl, and I love her work. I read all the time. She does her serial outside of those other mediums.
Okay.
So she actually does it on her website.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember the name? I'm really mad at
I'll
myself.
look it up.
She does her serial on her own blog. What she does is she releases one a day on a blog, and people
Mm,
read it. Comes to their email. They read it like they're reading a newsletter. Um,
nice.
she does something where she takes it down, so you only have 24 hours to read it, and then she takes it down and she makes you buy the like. That's how she makes her fortune, and she has a fortune. She's been doing this for like a decade, but that's
Mhm.
how she well over a decade actually, but that's how she makes her money. Is you, if you want to go back and read something from the past, you have to buy that section of the
Mm,
serial. So she actually publishes it 3 times. She publishes it live in the Stephanie Bond. Dang it. Stephanie Bond. Stephanie, if you're listening to this, I'm very sorry. I forgot your last name. Stephanie Bond. So
it's
amazing
been a
writer.
long day, Stephanie.
Yeah. It is late in the evening. So but yeah, so she runs it out on the blog. It's only live for 24 hours, and then she pulls it down. And so you either read it when it comes up, or you have to buy it. And she publishes like mid seasons, so she'll publish a season like quarterly, and then she'll publish the whole year as its own book. And then so she's what's amazing about her strategy, she has 3 different ways for people to engage with her writing, and there's 3 different purchase buy points. I
Yeah.
don't now, she's been doing that for a really long time. She has a huge audience. I might go a different way with this, and I might set each thing up as an email and an autoresponder, because
Okay.
you're already not making money off of it, so it's not like you're losing anything
Hmm.
by giving it away. I'd set it up as an autoresponder that comes out daily, and then ask people if they want to subscribe to it.
Okay.
Um, Worst case scenario, you get a list of people who enjoy your work, and you can see how far through they read.
Yeah.
If anything, because you can see how when they stop opening. If
Yeah.
anything, it'll tell you when the story is breaking down for people. When they're like, I don't like it at this point. It'll give you more data to understand, like, why is this working? Why is this not working? Does
I
that
did
make
that with my
sense?
first Nano novel
Oh,
when I
did
was
you really?
19. I sent out,
Nice.
I had a bunch of people that wanted to read it. And
Yeah.
so every day as I was writing it, I would send that
You send
day's
it out.
words
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
people dropped off at a certain point. People
Yep.
had strong
Perfect
reactions to
serial
different things.
style. Yeah.
I learned so much.
Yeah.
I learned so
Yeah.
much.
My first book was a collection of short stories in 7 different genres. I had 28 short stories in 7 different genres, because I
Nice.
wasn't sure what genre people wanted to read. And so
Mm,
I sent it out, and in the back, I had a Survey Monkey survey, back when Survey Monkey surveys were a thing. And I just said, like, hey, if you read this book, go fill out this survey for me. It was literally like, which stories did you like the best? Which stories did you dislike?
yeah.
It was like 5 multiple choice questions. And I
Yeah.
got a it was really helpful. I got great feedback on it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, that was when I started to shy away from horror, because my horror stories were not scary. And people are like, it's so scary. And I learned that if I get too weird, in my um magical realism,
Mm.
people turn off. So I remember the least favorite
Oh.
story was a guy on his porch talking to his potted plants. That was the least favorite about his day. That was the least favorite. People were like, I don't like this.
Sounds lovely.
This is weird. There's things talking to plants. So somebody wrote like, I can't tell if he's on drugs or not. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. So,
Yeah.
so yeah. Anyway, that's probably what I would do with this. I don't think running in this format, running it as a novel is going to be one of those that would have to gain a cult following for people to
Mm.
read. It would have to be, it would have to gain because it's so out of the norm of what, you know, plot structure expectations are, which I think is beautiful and wonderful. You'd
Yeah.
either need an agent to really embrace it and drive it hard through a publishing company,
Yeah.
or you need it to gain a cult following. Now, the nice thing is if you run it as a serial and it somehow does get embraced, it catches the right ear, it catches the right eye, somebody falls into it and
Right.
is like, this is great. You can always republish as a novel,
Sure.
right? Like you can just take it
Yeah.
down and then rerun it as a novel because it's a different, it's considered a different format. So you don't have to run it. At least I think it is. You should probably check that.
Yeah.
But
And that
I,
would be good because it would give me time, and active feedback
Mhm.
to repair some things that I think are going to piss a lot of people off in it. And
yeah,
I don't need to piss people off that hard. But I didn't realize how unsatisfying a lot of the ending is.
yeah,
And it hit me when I was reading my friend's work, like, oh no, I cannot end this novel
yeah,
that way.
I think it's interesting. Like you bring up an interesting point about us as readers. We do want the adjacent possible, right? Like, you know that phrase in innovation. It's an innovation, really a tech phrase where like nobody, if the iPhone had dropped from the sky in the 1940s, people wouldn't have thought it was amazing. They wouldn't have known what to do with it.
Right.
And it would have just been discarded. It's like we don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. Innovation moves in steps. So
Yeah.
we needed the phone to come off the wall and go into a box in our car with a cord attached to it. And then we needed that cord to go away so we could walk away with a phone that still had a base, but we could walk around with a phone. Then we needed that phone to lose the base, right? But still look like a phone. Like it had to be a
Mm-hmm.
flip phone. It had to look like a phone for us to actually use it. Then we could move to a BlackBerry that had letters on it. Then we could move to a touch screen. But you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't have gone from a phone on the wall to a touch screen iPhone.
Sure.
Like people people need to move in steps. And so I think that's what's tough about innovating plot and story is that if you can't develop a cult following around what you've written, people go, it's too big a leap. And
Sure.
they won't give it honest engagement. That being said, I think if you take this out of the setting of a novel and give it to people in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
they they'll be more likely to give it a chance. Does that make
That's really
sense?
compelling. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really compelling because each scene standalone is very strong.
I'm reading it.
And
Yeah, like
I
just
kept
in
getting
your
that feedback.
yeah, in your two, I can tell that each scene is very strong. The only thing that I might put with it is I might put up a web page somewhere that's somewhat hidden. That is a character wiki.
Okay.
So I remember reading Game of Thrones for the first time, the Fire and Ice saga,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to read it with my laptop open and a character wiki because he wouldn't come back to characters for like 5 chapters, and I'm like, I don't remember who the hell this is, and so
Yeah.
that's because that was present, it opened up the story to me, and I was like, okay, I can just go and glance, and you'd really just need like one or two sentences about each character, put their names in alphabetical order, and
Hmm.
it's just a one web page with like, this is who they are. You don't
Okay.
need their history, you don't need their backstory, you just need like a sentence about like, John is a guardian angel in training, who's been assigned Sophia, right? Like,
Sure.
Sophia is this, Roy is so and so, right? Like that way you've got the like, and I might add, if you do it as the like auto send email, I might put that link at like the bottom. Be like, if you need a
Sure.
character reminder, here's a character. You can go to the character reading here. Um, I don't know. How does that feel? Do you think that's a necessary thing?
That is compelling. I don't know how necessary the character list will be, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's not
But
too
I'm happy
bad.
to build it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad in the beginning. I found when I was on like 15, I was looking at a whole bunch of names, and I was like, this is a lot of names.
Yeah.
Char, Gabe, Sophia, Merlin,
The people are
Margaret.
so well established by that point, though, that
Okay,
it.
so if I get that far, okay.
Yeah, you
Well,
know
yeah,
who
you may not
everybody
need that
is.
at all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk. You want to do rom-com next, or you want to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah. Let's go into that
let's go
because
rom-com.
something I find really compelling about going back in time and starting there
Hmm.
is that I can have so much more of an arc.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Because where Sophia starts, the original novel, she doesn't move that much farther as a person. She moves a lot farther in her like mystical training, but
Yeah.
I can go so much farther if I start her at age 20. Where she's this skeptical, doesn't know dick about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
about these different realms, and it's all just like frightening and new, and she's processing. She hasn't even had her medical career yet. Like we get to learn everything through her bit
Yeah.
by bit, and it's a little more digestible.
Yeah, I like your log line's fantastic. Skeptical med student falls in love with heaven's most chaotic angel in training. I mean, come on. That's a poster. You can just see Paul Rudd standing on that poster looking sheepish.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, just looking like, um yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, John is
Yeah.
John is so cute like that.
Yeah,
This like
yeah.
scrappy little silly Scottish guy.
Yeah, taking John in a different track that keeps him apart from her is good. Uh Roy comes home because he feels entitled. And I will
So
say,
that's the big complication
yeah,
is
there.
how to keep Roy like in there to where they keep having kids without people being like, what in the world is she still doing with this
Oh,
guy? That's the most
yeah, and
heinous
this
part.
is this is the problem with rom-coms is assault's not going to play.
Mm,
Rom-com is cozy at heart.
yeah.
It's a cozy at heart. You got to have like, it's not a, you can't, any serious material distracts from the love relationship. It's got to be like Harry met Sally, where the most serious thing that happens is people are kind of jerks to each other. Like,
So like
they're
Talia Hibbert
mildly mean.
novels, there's like
I don't think I've read
because
any. Yeah,
yeah, so with Talia Hibbert novels, like most of her characters have trauma. And it
trauma before
usually
the story or during the story, because those are two
most
different
of her recent
things.
stuff, it's before the story, but her
Yeah.
like mid-career, and she's
Okay.
only been writing for like 5 years, but she's got a good body of work out at this
Yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah.
Most of her like mid-career stuff,
Interesting.
you have things happening during, but most of those are like novellas. They're not whole
Yeah.
novels, and they're not very popular at all.
Yeah. The thing about a rom-com is that you're coming, and as somebody who loves them, you're coming to the story um to forget about heavy things.
Right.
And so you'll have to find a different way.
Because there's just got to be some kind of plausible deniability, some kind of something for her to
Yeah.
get pregnant.
I mean, it's
um,
it's okay in a rom-com to have a triangle, and in that triangle you have a not so great partner. That's
okay.
a common rom-com trope. That's a Bridget Jones' Diary
Really?
trope, where like
I didn't think it would
she's
be
she's
okay for her to
sleeping
have
with.
a happy marriage and then also
It
the
can't
main love interest be between her and.
it can't be a happy marriage. It has to be a blah marriage.
Yes, it is
It
incredibly blah.
Yeah, it
It's
can't be happy.
business.
It has to be
Not
like,
even business
oh,
casual. It's
yeah,
business unpleasant.
yeah. See, you got to take it to business casual.
Okay.
They're together, the love is gone, but they're still functioning as a married couple.
Okay.
And then
He's just
she can,
away all the time. He's like
yeah,
deployed.
and
He's
then he
he's
can
doing
come
stuff.
home and she can have a night of connection with him where she's a willing participant in
Okay.
sex and she gets pregnant. The key to make those rom-coms work is that after that happens, then you vilify him with her finding out that he's been cheating on her. You
Mm,
have to have that moment though to excuse her stepping out on him.
mm,
Um, and that's the thing, is that any partner, because there's a lot of rom-coms where the person is already in a partnership. Like I'm thinking about High Fidelity, again, the author's name is slipping my mind. And he's a little
oh,
misogynistic, but I
Hornby.
yeah, Nick Hornby. I still love his female characters are very flat, but I love his stuff. Uh, I don't know. He wrote Funny Girl, and that has a female lead. I think it was his attempt to resurrect his
Misogyny.
misogyny, to resurrect his reputation. And it's a pretty good book. It's funny. It's
Hey.
definitely funny. It's not it's got some plot issues, but it's definitely funny. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. He's in High Fidelity, you meet the couple broken up, and she's living with someone else in a
Hmm.
blah relationship.
Okay.
The only reason it becomes okay is because two-thirds of the way through the book, you learn that he cheated on her before she left. And
Hmm.
so, and then when she leaves that character in the blah relationship, he does some things that make him an a-hole. And
Right.
so you have to you have to morally justify the leave.
Yeah.
But you
Like
got to,
Roy is blatantly villainous, but I
yeah, but
thought I
that's
had
wrong.
to make him like horrible to make her and her relationship with John okay.
No, it's the opposite.
Um,
You have to make him okay.
okay.
Like not great, he's okay. He's fine. John is her dream.
Hmm.
And then Roy does something where she learns, oh, he's not okay, Roy. He is horrible, Roy. That justifies her pursuing
Okay.
John. And that's often how rom-coms work. You need your two lead characters to be morally uncompromised.
Mm,
So they have to justify the relationship. Like a great example of a movie that doesn't work is Serendipity.
hmm.
And it's a Cusack movie. I don't think it was a book first. It's a Cusack movie, and the plot line is oh, Kate Beckinsale is the female lead, I think. She leaves a note in a book that's like, if you ever find this, it's serendipity. Come and find me. And he finds it, and he goes and finds her, and they immediately fall madly in love. The problem is they're both engaged to
Ooh,
fairly nice people.
yeah.
To genuinely nice.
But
Nothing
I
is
happened to
wrong with
find
these
this
people.
book.
Yeah, and so the whole time you're watching Beckinsale and Cusack come together, you're like, you guys are a-holes. Like, and so it
This is
really,
not
yeah,
okay.
it pulls apart the story, because you're like, this doesn't work. So
Yeah.
you have to keep Roy good. Like, you have to keep Roy just blah,
Okay.
and then after they conceive a kid, or the second kid, then she needs to discover something about him that justifies her relationship with John. And then
Okay.
she
Because
can,
this is their first kid, and they're already broken up at the start of the novel, but they're
yeah,
still married because of it's like a military
yeah,
thing where
distance.
like
Yeah.
he gets extra benefits.
Yep.
They get a house that she
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
live in,
Yeah.
tuition and
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And then I think, but once he does the horrible thing, then she's free to chase after John. Usually in those plots in the all is lost moment, when she's finally free in the swivel, when she finally realizes that she's free to chase after John, he then suddenly can't. And
Okay.
that's the all is lost moment, is like, oh no, I'm free, but I'm too late. He's gone.
Mm,
And that's usually how that plays out. Yeah.
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 Yeah, because he gets transferred. So he's not in the Guardian Angel program yet at the start
Yeah.
of this. He's in a different program of like transmitting blessings.
Nice.
And then like so the all is lost, like he's being transferred and they can't be together or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the novel, he gets memory wiped because he's actually the god of chaos,
Oh,
but
nice.
he got wiped, so he doesn't know that, and so
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
feels like this floundering lackey trying to learn how to be an angel.
That's fun.
And because of his chaotic, static electricity, he keeps getting wiped by the biofilters.
Yeah.
So he gets totally wiped into the Guardian Angel program. And then there's a little epilogue of him being assigned to Sophia. So,
Nice.
like, he's been transferred away. Oh no, we'll never see him again. And then
Yeah.
there's
And
that
then he comes
assignment.
back. Yeah.
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 So I
That's a
wasn't going to
nice.
return to him until a later book in that, if I was
No,
going to do
that's
a
nice.
romance series.
Yeah, I like it. And then you get to do it all over again where she's trying to remind him of who is very much a
Yeah. And she thinks he's just gone. Like, she
yeah.
doesn't know.
Yeah, what was that real life story? I'm trying to remember. I think they called it Dear John was the book they wrote off of it, where the wife is in a car accident. She has amnesia. She forgets the love of her life. And he spends the next like 3 years trying to win her heart again. It's a very sweet story. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so that was the rom-com.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
then this
do.
would be the action. And another idea I had for not quite rom-com, but like a romance focused series that would be more erotic and probably more in the realm of the
Yeah.
serial interest is like a monster girl doctor structure where it's
Huh.
like there's a monster of the week. It's like a medical
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mystery what's going on with them.
Yeah.
She would be beyond reproach for her interactions with these
Yeah.
entities. But it would be like you could read it overtly erotic or romantic.
Yeah, yeah.
But she's just there like with that clinical distance, doing the thing, but the content is actually very steamy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun. That would lend more toward a serial. I mean, that's not true. You could totally do it as a monster of the week in a novel. I mean, Neil
Yeah,
Gaiman.
the Monster Girl Doctor is a series of light novels. They have
Oh,
like
is it?
11
I
at
don't
this
know.
point.
Oh, nice.
hmm It's
Yeah.
like it's etchy, so
Yeah.
it's targeted toward teenage boys, so it's vulgar, but
Gotcha.
you can
Gotcha.
read it completely wholesome.
Yeah.
Like but like there's these big titty monsters everywhere. It's overtly,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
the main character is this like teenage boy who's a doctor.
Gotcha.
Um
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
so he's just there with his clinical distance, just taking care of these monster girls and their various medical ailments.
Yeah. Okay, I just read the action series. I actually don't have any thoughts about it. I don't like it as much as the rom-com or the original.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't pop to me. Um,
Okay. And like
yeah.
I've never written an action novel. I've never structured one. I've never gone for that kind of life and death tension. Um,
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd use
so I don't
it.
know how well I'd be able to pull it off.
Yeah, it's a weird mix right now, what you have between thriller and action.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in that thriller is someone with no skills being chased by a powerful entity who has to figure out how to escape them.
Mm-hmm. I don't
You have
think I
a
have anything like that.
what'd you say?
I don't
No,
think I have anything like that.
it's not like that. You just have
Oh.
the character setup of John being kind of a trainee
Hmm.
and Sophia being in another realm puts it in that range a little bit. Whereas your typical action leans more like Reacher or Mission Impossible of your hero has all of the skills.
Right.
They have all the skills. Um,
Right.
so in that one, you wouldn't want John to be a trainee or Sophia to be.
So Sophia is the main character. John is just in a few of the novels, not all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So the main protagonist is Sophia. She's already very skilled,
Okay.
even though she's 20 in the first novel and she's just starting into medical school, but she has a degree in biomedical engineering.
Gotcha.
She's been
Oh, and this is a
volunteering as a
series.
scribe.
I
Hmm.
was reading these as chapters.
No,
I
no,
was
it's
like, man,
11
you're
books.
moving, Bob. That's I was reading, I was like, wow, you're moving. I don't think this is yeah.
None of this makes sense.
Yeah.
No, these are different novels.
In medical, I gotcha. Crisis piling
Hmm.
up around the new chaplain before her closest friend comes. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good I get it now.
So the
When it
name
revolves
is
around
like
us.
the
Yeah.
person that's having the medical mystery.
I gotcha. That's good.
And like that wouldn't be the title of the book. That wouldn't be anything. It's just
I'm
that was
following
just me
you.
tracking like, okay,
No,
who
yeah,
is the
I'm watching.
main medical mystery going to be around? And the way I had it structured in my head would be like the book starts out with kind of a teaser with like a light medical issue that gets resolved fairly quickly in the book
Yeah, yeah.
that
Yeah.
hints toward the main big problem but isn't obviously connected.
Yeah.
Um, and then we have like the main medical problem that's a little more personal, that they're exploring.
How
And then
real how real are you gonna make the medical? Are you gonna make her honest doctor? Or are you gonna make this magic doctor?
both.
Okay.
So there's going to be some that are just pure human medical stuff, and but there will always be some etheric realm thing going on too.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff that's just like full fantasy, mushishi, like
Yeah, no,
totally a spiritual issue and presenting as like this medical mystery. What do we do?
yeah, now that I see them as different books, it's very Butcher. I like it. It's very Jim Butcher. Um,
Yeah. I,
it's a
I
good,
was setting
yeah.
it up with Spook from Deb Chester.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's who
Yeah.
inspired him to structure all of his Dresden Files.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It's a good yeah, I think that would work. It's a lot of books. I think I would recommend leaning more to the magical medicine than the actual medicine, so you don't
Yeah.
have to do research.
I wouldn't have
Um,
to because that's my background.
oh, nice. Okay, well then you're good to go.
Yeah.
I'm
So
reading this.
like
I'm like,
it
oh my
would
gosh,
be,
I don't want to read how to cure any of these diseases. So, but if you're comfortable, that's great.
yeah. So
Yeah,
and it would follow a pattern that ties in with the mystical process that she's going through.
gotcha.
So like each of the organ systems and
Yeah,
whether it's a
yeah,
yin issue or yang issue, it
yeah.
goes through that cycle so
Okay,
that she can be going through her Taoist training as she's going through her medical training. She actually like leaves medicine at a particular point, and that is like right in alignment with her going into a different
gotcha.
phase in her Taoist training.
And by like by novel 11, she's like expert master level.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. Pa, that sounds great. I think so far all three of these to me feel like strong possibilities.
Cool. And
Um,
that's just an overview of Sophia and John as they're starting out
gotcha.
in either the rom-com or the
Yeah, yeah.
action. And then that last one is the plot line of the action, the first action novel.
Okay. Resolution, blah, blah. Look at you putting this in an action format. I love it.
Yeah, I talked to so many people about like,
How did it
what
feel?
is Monster Girl Doctor following? Is it
Yeah.
following crime? Like, what is medical mystery following? Is it crime? It doesn't feel like crime because justice isn't the value slider.
Mhm.
And so it was like, oh, okay, action makes the most sense because it at least has that life and death
Interesting. It's interesting it's not
slider.
detective.
So Master Detective would work too.
Okay.
But again, it's in the crime genre where it's justice that's the
Yeah, yeah,
slider.
yeah,
And I shifted it to make it health as the slider, but
yeah,
you still have to have a MacGuffin. You have to have a speech in praise of the villain.
yeah,
And like
yeah,
somebody could talk about the illness and like the grave stakes of
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
illness,
yeah,
but it didn't map as easily as action mapped.
yeah, yeah. No, this maps really nicely. Yeah, I think it's great.
Cool.
I like all of them. I don't have a. I'm sorry, I'm not helpful. I don't have a preference.
If you want
No,
to look at the pared down outline now,
is this the pared down one?
that's the pared down one.
Okay.
So it's a little more straightforward. There's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
two scenes per chapter.
yeah.
There's fewer chapters too. I took a bunch out that were just like not tracking.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm already in eight, and what was interesting about the original was its complexity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that losing complexity makes it more interesting. It's like, is Game of Thrones more interesting if we don't talk about the wall? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it
I don't
makes it
think
more
so.
streamlined,
It makes
like
it more
not having to
streamlined.
hold so much information at once.
Yeah, if you really wanted to do this as a novel, I would say I think this is smart. This is how you'd have to do it. Simply because the book in someone's hand would be lighter. Like just that raw. I hate to say it, but sometimes
Yeah.
it's just that simple. It's like, oh, the book in my hand is lighter than you know, I feel like I can. There's something about reading a book in our day and age where like you need to feel like you're making progress. Does
Yeah,
that make sense? You need to
for
feel like you're
sure.
moving through it.
Yeah, people
Um,
complain about so like some people are like, "Ooh, I got a Brandon Sanderson novel on Audible and it costs the same as anybody else and I've got 39 hours
yeah,
to listen through." But then some people are like, "Oh my God,
yeah,
39
39
hours."
hours. Yeah, I'll never do that. Yeah,
It's
and
wonderful.
yeah. Well,
Like,
I mean, it's
why you
wonderful
mad?
if you're already in. If you're already in, it's wonderful. If you're trying to gain new readers, the 39-hour audiobook isn't a great idea. Does that make
Mm,
sense? Like,
right.
yeah.
And
And but
paying for it when you don't have an established audience.
yeah, but then again, I say that and I have friends who were reading Worm when it was a blog and they were like, it's amazing. It's like 500,000 words.
Yep.
But I was one of those people. I was like, why would you read that? I was like,
Yeah. The
what are you
best
talking about?
fan fictions too. Like it
Yeah,
takes
they
you,
just go on forever.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's an audience here for both the big and the pared down. Um,
So you don't have a clear sense of like what looks the strongest approach wise?
I mean, I'm again, Pa, take this source for what it is. I'm a natural lit fic reader who likes complexity.
Same. I am
So
too.
for
Yeah.
me, the more complex, the better. Then the question becomes like, how do you make complexity marketable? Um, and so I think giving
And like,
complexity in small doses
yeah.
is
So
better than a
I gotta
giant
tell you,
volume.
like, I have been desperately trying to write more simply for years now. Like
Yeah.
trying to write genre fiction, trying to write like can I just write a simple romance and have it be digestible and have people read it and have a lovely time and not have a headache or whatever. And
Ah,
like I just
yeah.
I cannot help myself. Like things just get complicated because I love it.
Oh
Like
yeah. I'm
I
the worst.
want to
I'm right
reference
there with you.
various mythologies. I want to use clever turns of phrase. I
Yep.
want to be deep and involved and emotive. Like I want to go on a journey with you and have an experience and be transformed at the end.
Yeah.
Like I physically cannot write pulp. I tried.
Yeah, and some people can pull it off. Like I read, like
Yeah,
some people
there's
can,
nothing wrong with, like, I'm
some
not
people
putting
can
it
get it.
down.
No,
I've
no.
tried so hard to do it.
Oh
I've
no,
been
I meant the other
pursuing it
way. Like because my
ardently.
question is like when I write complicated things, it doesn't feel marketable. But
Mhm.
some people can market it. Like I just read
Ooh.
Friedrich Bachman's Beartown series.
Mhm.
It's very complicated. There's 7 protagonists per series. The story, the Beartown story, actually the main protagonist is the town, and then you have representatives of the 2 identities of the town who fight against each other, and it all centers around the star of the hockey team raping a girl,
Jeez Louise.
raping the general manager's daughter, and then the town takes sides. It's a heavy book. There's
Yeah.
suicidal ideation. There's a closeted LGBTQ character. There's
Mm.
lots of talk of abuse, of like children being abused, of broken homes. There's lots of alcoholism. Like it's a dark book, but he weaves it, and it's all these braided narratives that all follow this track of the town being the subject about what side is it going to take.
Mm.
And man, he nails it. Like, and it's like, how did that guy get so connected with book contracts that like he can put these beautifully complex things out where the rest of us kind of suffer in the genre? But I got to tell you, like, I tried to write genre. I wrote a detective series.
Mhm.
You know, in the first novel, I was like, we're gonna keep it simple. I like magical realism. We're gonna write a detective who can relive people's memories. It's simple. And then
So simple.
yeah, and then I started writing and in book 1 she has a brother who's an
Mhm.
FBI agent. I'm like, that's fun. So then I start writing book 2, and I'm like, you know what? In book 2, she's going to solve 2 crimes, and we're going to introduce 2 brothers. And halfway through, I'm like, and what if somebody figures out that they can manipulate her memories?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's fun. And then
Yep.
in book 3, I'm like, okay, she can't trust anyone's memories anymore. And she has 4 brothers, and there's 3 crimes she's solving. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, why
Mhm.
this was supposed to be a simple mystery detective series, and I've made it this nuts. And I'm like, and there's a
Yep.
kidnapping, and there's an organization, and the question is like they're using people with powers, but is that okay or is that not okay? I'm like, what is happening to this
Yep.
simple mystery series?
Yep.
And it's
It is
so
our
yeah,
nature.
it
It
is
is
the
our
nature.
nature.
I've just kind of
I
given.
told you, right, about the surrealist erotica that I wrote when my twins were infants.
No, you didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, I read my first Chuck Tingle and I was like, I
Okay.
could do that. So so I just started writing surrealist erotica and
Oh,
publishing it. I published like 5 books.
nice.
It was so much fun. The covers were hilarious. I had the
Sure.
best time. Um, and then I just set it aside. And in 2019, I was like, let me write another one of those. That was so just fun and lighthearted and just a quick little romp.
Oh,
Um, and so I started planning it out, and that became the like Cinderella, 80-year-old Cinderella
that's
literary
hysterical.
family saga dealing with trauma and like
Yeah. So heavy. Yeah. Everything's sad.
it's like a
Everything's
100,000
sad.
words. It is not a novella. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I even had to take out a lot of the like spicy stuff because it was
Yeah.
like, this does not feel appropriate in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And the whole time. See, I go a different route. I love to write conversations between characters that have nothing to do with the plot, but just entertain
Mhm.
me. And they'll
Yep.
go on for like 10 pages. And it's like, what does this have to do with the story? I don't know. I'm having a great I'm having the best time. But
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, I
I
don't
have
know.
the
There is a
conversations over tea.
there is a
Yeah.
lesson in here somewhere for both of us about like just being true to our voice and who we are. But
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to learn that tonight. So, yeah. Well, Pa, I don't know if I was helpful, but this was a joy.
Yeah,
I
so
had a great time.
do you have a gut feeling about like where you would guide me?
What's your ultimate goal?
Ultimate goal.
Is it, and let me rephrase that question.
Okay. That's a big question.
You can only pick one: money, art, or fandom?
Money makes the most sense right now, practically, but it doesn't feel like a goal worth pursuing because in pursuing money the last several years, I haven't made any traction and I've just frustrated myself and I've
Yeah.
fallen farther away from the things that I'm so strong in.
Yeah.
So I think just art has to be
Then
my
I'd
my
keep it
aim in this project and
I'd keep
then
it how it is
I
and
just
run it
need to
as a
find money
serial.
other way.
Yeah, I'd keep
Okay.
it how it is and run it as a serial. I mean, again, worst case scenario, keeping it how it is and running it as a serial is you spend, a day and a half putting it together and then, another day trying to get it into the world, not consecutively, but like a day of time over the
Right.
next couple of weeks, trying to get it out in the world, trying to get people to see it, and then you just let it live and see what happens with it. And you've created a beautiful art project that somebody might stumble on someday and really love. Um, and it doesn't cost you, it doesn't, you're not losing any money because you're not making any money on it anyway. And
Mhm.
if it does take off, if somebody does like it and they're like, I love this, but we need to do something else with it, well, now you've got these other three options kind of sitting there. You're like,
Mm.
well, yeah, I got this other stuff I can do with it too. And I would say, like, every once in a while, drop a social media post or, mention that, like, hey, there's this thing. I wrote this book. You get it once a day in your email.
Mm.
That's what I would do with it. Um,
Okay.
Especially if putting art into the world is the satisfaction. I think that's probably the smarter move. Fiction is the fiction market, from what I understand. I'm not a market guru, but
Yeah.
just
Stuff is
from
happening.
just from watching the panic over 20 books to 50K, it seems the fiction market is having problems.
Yeah. Because the
So
Kindle page reads are
Kindle
crashing and
page reads
people
are
are.
crashing. The for whatever reason, like I've heard a ton of different reasons around it. Everything from like AI to Amazon taking advantage of things to just to the writers, the Hollywood writers strike. They're all now writing novels. Like there's a whole ton of reasons that people are giving. I don't know which is true or what's happening, but um just fiction right now is in a little bit of a turmoil.
Mm.
And the it seems that the real money in fiction at this moment is writing something that becomes streaming. And so,
Mm.
and I don't know that this art project is going to become streaming. So part of me thinks like going for the money is tough. Going for the fandom right now is less hard. Like I think you can build fans, but I don't know that it's in you to actually cater to people.
No.
Especially when I told you for your rom-com you have to move the sexual assault and you looked at me like I had hurt you. So like, I don't know that it's in you to
Well, I
actually
just
like,
I didn't know how else to like I can restructure it, it's not a problem, but I didn't know how else to have that moment
yeah,
happen. And it's
it
not
wasn't a
overtly aggressive. The
yeah,
after talk is where it's like you feel entitled to this, excuse
yeah.
me, and that's when like the big rupture
Yeah,
happens between
it
them.
wasn't a criticism. It was just that
Right. But
I'm
like
just saying,
but
like,
that is a
I
tender
don't,
spot of
yeah.
like how do I keep this guy in the story when he's so
Oh yeah,
terrible from the jump?
100%. But I also don't know that like you and I as writers are people who are real great on like, hey, what do you want me to write? I'll go write that. Like that's not how you and I work.
I
So
have I have done that a whole bunch.
yeah, I
And
can't
I
do it. You're a
write so
better person than I am.
quickly.
That's true.
I
You're
just
fat.
write
You're
so
much
quickly
faster
that
than
it's
I am.
like,
Yeah.
oh, you have an idea? I'll make something with that idea.
Yeah.
Sure. Like,
Yeah.
and the thing that I make is probably not what they were after.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
but I'll do like they have with Beth Barani's group, they'll
Yeah.
do I forget what they call them, like word yoga or something. They'll
Okay.
have
Interesting.
these sessions on the weekend where it's like these little prompts,
Yeah.
and then you can write for a little while and then come back. And I always write novellas like when
Nice.
we're doing these things.
Sweet
And
brother.
I'm like, this is fantastic, and it follows
Yeah.
the Orphe Eurydice myth, and it's got this
Sweet
going on,
brother.
and it's got sapphic mermaids, and then blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And it's
Yeah.
written in iambic pentameter. Like,
Yeah. They're
stop
like,
it.
we were really just looking for 1,500 words.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I would try I would try to put it as an art project. If you start doing it and you feel like this is crap, I don't want to do this, I would then probably pivot to the rom-com. I think that's your second strongest idea.
Okay.
I don't know that it's streamlined. I think in streamlining it, you actually lose the beauty of the complexity that makes it special.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know that I do that. But
Okay.
again, know the source. I also bend toward complexity. So, take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to stop the recording. We can talk a little bit more.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.